to have you with us tonight on this cold, snowy night. We got 4 or 5 inches, maybe tonight, right on the back of the last storm. And but we're keeping warm, and everything is fine here. And the date today is January 10th, 2025, if you can believe that. 2025 tonight. And we got an exciting little show for you tonight. Going to be as brief as I can. I like to keep these down to a shorter time span, just because a lot of people, if they're too long, they won't even click on it. Everybody's busy, and you only got so much time to watch videos, right? So let me. By the way, it is 10 minutes, 11 minutes after 8 Central Standard Time. Good to have you ready night. And so let's get started. The title is this. See, what did I put? Oh, The Return of the War of the Worlds. We actually did a TV show, I think, I can't remember. And we shared some of these things in that, but I wanted to come live and share a little bit for you tonight. How many of you are old enough? Very few of you are old enough to have been alive, a young child. 1938 is the year, I believe that's what we got here. There's a famous broadcast that took place October 30th, 1938. The person who did it was the very famous and very well known, even today, Orson Welles. All of you have heard of him. He was a radio personality. I'm looking at pictures of him here. And claim it's the most infamous radio program in history. Here's what happened just briefly. It was Halloween, October 30th, 1938. They were going to do a radio broadcast. He was going to narrate the broadcast, Orson Welles. And they were kind of short on time. They had a block of time they were allowed on the radio. And they were doing a story that was written 40 years prior. So it would have been like this story, the War of the Worlds. And they did a radio broadcast on it. What happened was they didn't have time. They didn't break in for commercials. So most people that tuned in didn't that it was a story that they would. And so when you would turn your radio on, or you happened to walk in the room, it was on. What you heard was a guy very vehemently, very excitedly talking about aliens from landing on our planet, abducting people, whatever. And people were panicking. Um, there's some interesting things about this story that I want you to the one that I want you to get. So think if you were there's probably no television. Television is just coming on the scene. If anybody, I don't know what year television actually came out, but if you had a TV, you were very lucky. Um, most of it was radio. FDR spoke to people via the radio. Um, okay, you got silent TV, you got silent movies coming out, mostly at the theaters, but no telephones. If there was a telephone, it was use it. You wouldn't have been lucky enough in 1938 probably to have your own. And so you didn't just flip on the news. I mean, you didn't call somebody. And so you walk in your room or you turn your radio on, and if he did give an introduction, you missed it. And, and there you are. Esther is saying that it's freezing up. I'm not seeing that on my end. That may be on your end, Miss Esther. Usually, if I freeze, so let me continue here. So imagine way back 1938, you walk in there, or your relatives or friends. Um, I believe it was 8 o'clock at night. I'm trying to see here. I know it was October 30th. Um, I think it happened at 8 o'clock at night. Here's a picture of him actually speaking. And let's see, I think it was 8 o'clock at night. I'm trying to find it, but I'm not mastered broadcast of it here. But it's Halloween night. It's in the evening, probably 8 o'clock. And you walk in your room or you turn your radio on and you hear this guy all excitedly warning people about these spaceships from Mars and people that are being abducted or whatever. Can you imagine what you would think at that moment? There's nobody to call, even if you had a phone. I mean, you don't have no cell phones. What do you do? We're panicking. They may have ran to the neighbors. They may have drove somewhere and to someone else's house and told them what's going on. Imagine this. Now, let me say this: the place that this broadcast presented. Now, the broadcast, the storyline of the broadcast took place in a town in New Jersey. New Jersey. Now, that's going to be important in just a minute. New Jersey. Okay. The Brody, the story that they're talking about, that they're acting out on the radio, is a story that's happening in New Jersey, USA. Orson Welles is British, of course, and I believe the broadcast probably was recorded or was live in London somewhere. But anyway, October 30th, 1938. As I understand it, there were time constraints, so they didn't break in and give announcements about who what was going on. This was Orson Welles giving us a show Halloween night. Of course, they're trying to scare people on Halloween night, right? Well, they did. There was panic. There was panic. People were panicking. 1 year prior, I believe, 1937, if I've got the date right. 1 year prior to this, something else happened in New Jersey. Anybody know what it was? It was up in. It was a hot air balloon. It was the Hindenburg. The terrible. You've seen video of that. The guy, the announcer, announcing what he's seeing, just unbelievable. And the Hindenburg caught fire and it's going to crash and people are going to die. And that happened right there in that same spot in New Jersey 1 year prior. So the following year, 1938, you got this Halloween special in the evening, and 1938, and for whatever reason, they didn't get on. They didn't get announced. So they didn't. There was no breaks in it. Announcing that this was a broadcast being broadcast from London. It's a story, and because there were a lot of radio stories in my truck, I have Sirius Radio. And if you go to channel 148 on Sirius Radio, it's called Old Time Radio. 24/7. They play old radio programs from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and right up until the show's kind of ended. That's what this was. But this was a special show for Halloween. So it wasn't a regular weekly thing. This was a special show. And they said that some people came on halfway through. They were listening to another over on their dial to this other station, and they would have caught this, and they would have caught it right in the middle where there was no one announcement. They yelling and screaming and causing panic about Martians have landed, and people panicked. By the way, I've seen clips in several different TV shows, movies, where they went back to this time and showed people panicking of the show that they were going to air, a modern movie. So What has all this got to do with Prof in the spotlight? Why am I telling this story about the War of the World? Because I believe there may be going to be a return of this War of the Worlds very soon, and very, very soon. Could be before the 20th, or it could be halfway down to, a year from now. I don't know. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying here. You remember what's going on in New Jersey, right? How many remember? There's so much that goes on. The news goes for a few days, switches to something else, and sometimes you never hear about the. Remember the drones? Remember the drones in the sky? There's a big part of it in New Jersey that people have been talking about, right? By the way, be sure and hit the like button, and be sure and share this so that other people can hear. That would help us get this out there. Jersey, near where this fictitious radio program centered around in New Jersey, is where these drones are being seen. Is that just a coincidence? What's that all about? And what are these drones all about? Or it may have been a 15-minute update. I'm not sure, but it's not up yet, but it's coming. Um, in the next few weeks, you'll see that. We read some stuff where some people are actually talking about this. And some people are saying that they think that these drones are being used to, they're practicing right now. They're getting ready to do something. And the theory is, and I've shared this with you already, the couple one is they're looking for a nuclear bomb, or they're trying to sniff out red because something's been stolen, something's missing, and they're looking for it. That's a possibility. And they're not telling us. Um, and even if they tell us, don't believe most of what they lie to us. They've been lying to us for decades. Face it. Um, this was not television. This was radio. And somebody just said there is television shows you can watch it, but this was a radio. As I understand it, this was, yeah, radio broadcast. I'm sure they did movies of this later, but um, okay. Let's see. And so the second possibility for these drones, which is more than one possibility. They say, well, it could be the Chinese, somebody spying on us. I doubt that. I think this is our stuff. I think this is American stuff. Um, and but this could be. It could be that they're preparing. They're preparing to stage. Listen now. Listen. It could be that they're getting ready to stage a modern day war of the world. That our government, entities within our government, you know what I'm talking about, the bad guys out there, the deep state bad guys that have been giving us trouble for quite a few years now. It could be that they're getting ready to stage, but we are going to be taught and told is a war from aliens from outer space. You say no, nobody would believe that. What do you mean nobody would believe that? Of course they would believe. Everybody is going after these UFOs today on television. Has gone after the fallen angel crazy stuff, fallen angels marrying human women, having babies. Uh, they've gone UFOs. Fallen angels are driving around in UFOs, abducting women, all this stupid stuff that crazy. And now it's Bigfoot. And now there's something new. I don't even know what it is. I heard of it. I turned it off. Said the guy's crazy. Um, he shouldn't be on Christian program. The guy's nutty as a fruitcake. Some kind of shadowy. There's some other new thing that he's pushing now. He even said, "I've never seen him, but I know people who haven't." Okay, yeah, yeah. Hook, line, and sinker, buddy. Why don't you go get right with God? Why don't you go get you a Bible, a King James Bible, and do some study? Call me up. Let me help you. So, um, all right. Ladybug says, I've seen the drones. Some were and I didn't get to read the rest of it. Let me see if I can bring that back. Let me see here. Where there we go. Um, let's see. Are big. Some were seen at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and Museum. Is Wright-Patterson, is that New Jersey? I think it probably is. I've heard the same thing. When you think of drones, you think of these little things that the kids and teenagers fly around. No, drones are big. I mean, they're not like a full-size aircraft, but they may have a 3 foot, 4, 6 foot wingspan. They're pretty big. And of course, military drones that carry missiles are much bigger than that. But um, here's what I know this. I'm throwing this out there as a possibility. Ohio, right? Patterson, Ohio. Okay. Um, and so here's what some people are saying. They're planning to stage. Now, of course, nobody called it the War of the Worlds. I came up with that myself. Um, they're claiming that they're gonna stage a mock attack of aliens and get us to give in, and it will bring in one world dictatorship. Very possibly could happen. That is a good scenario to bring this thing all into fulfillment. And so that's a very interesting thought there, and a very real possibility. Now here's what they'll do. And by the way, they've already prepped us for this, haven't they? Everyone's talking about these lights that zip across the sky, and they say there can't be from our planet. They're not physical crafts, folks. It's light. It's hologram type stuff. It's laser. You streak that across the sky. You know how fast that would go if you could measure it out there. Unbelievable. What they're saying is, and of course they've set us up for this. They've got all these sightings, and now even the government has had hearings, and right there in front of Congress, they have said they believe it is something from the outside of our universe. Earth. They've said that in the hearings. Now talk about a setup. Talk about setting up the American people. I mean, it's people that we trust are believing this. Tucker Carlson, and I love Tucker Carlson. I think he's got some great. I could talk with Tucker Carlson. I wish he'd bring me on his show and let me give another view for him to think of. And um, John says, I live. Oh, come on. Where is it? I live in New Jersey. I know what aircraft look like at night. There were many drones that I saw. Some drones were fixed wing. I believe it was our military. Okay. And again, John is not, he's given a pin there. And I have not seen them. And if I saw them, it wouldn't change my mind. You can't trust your eyes. You can't trust what you see. You don't know what they're capable of today, and what they're capable of making look like something that it's not. And in the tribulation, the Antichrist is going to call fire down from heaven, and the Antichrist is going to appear to die and be brought back to life. That's all fake. That's not going to happen. Satan can't bring somebody back to life. Can't create anything. Give the body back. Only Jesus could do that. And so these the possibilities, and they've set us up for this. Remember the ship off the coast of California just a couple years back? For the video they gave us of these lights moving around. Remember how green it was? What a joke. That ought to have been a giveaway for you right there. That was like video from the 70s. You got to be kidding me. They can read your license plate from a satellite. And that's what the US Navy gave us, that kind of trash video. Why didn't they send an F-16 out there to look at these things? Because it's all a scam here. They've set us up. uh, They've all of a sudden, recent years, recent months, they've released all this video of all these UFO sightings, and they're telling us that they can't explain it, and that some of this is not of our Earth. They're setting you up, my friend. There are no aliens from other planets, and I promise you, that's sci-fi stuff. And sad to say, that's most of your prophecy TV. There's nothing but fairy tale and sci-fi. Don't do that. Here's what I think is possibly going to happen. I think these drones are. I think this may be a practice run, and I think when it happens is they're going to intermingle with these other drones. They're going to have some of the bigger drones. They're going to have weapons on, small bombs, maybe other things, and some of these will be grams in the sky. But you and I will look up and we'll see hundreds of these things, and we'll see some explosions, and we're under attack. And this isn't of our world. These things are. These are not ours. These are aliens. You see what I'm saying? You let several country and across the world, maybe worldwide panic. What do you got? You've got the war of the worlds. You've got the war of the worlds beginning, and we're under attack from aliens that they shoved down our throat and gave credence to, and had hearings, and people watched the hearings, and Tucker Carlson played the videos. And again, I love Tucker Carlson. I'd love to help him. Tucker Carlson doesn't understand the biblical view of things, and give him the biblical view of this thing and try to help him. But um, Tucker Carlson don't know who I am, I'm guessing. And so this is what could be getting ready to happen. This would bring in the 10 world kingdom, the 10 regions of the world that come together, which leads right into the Antichrist, and three of those fall, and there's just seven plus him, and then eventually he's crowned, he becomes the head of it all. That could bring it right in. People would lay down, they would beg the government to save them, to take over. We would give up our liberty, we would give up our constitution, because a crisis is here. We're at war with aliens from outer space. By the way, not only has our government set us up for this, before that, Hollywood has set us up for this. This kind of stuff that Hollywood has shoved at us. Star Trek, Star Wars, and then all these modern movies. There's even a modern War of the Worlds, I think, with Tom Cruise or somebody in it. Or maybe it's not him, but anyway, I've never seen it. But there's all this. Just getting in people's heads, getting into the young people's heads, and then young people have grown up. And you know what? Almost everybody believes in the little green men now, don't they? Almost everybody believes in UFOs. And now our Bible and prophets are shoving it down our throats, have been for over a decade. All the way back, Chuck Missler. I mentioned Chuck Missler in my book, The Great End Time Distraction. I've got one right here. Remember that? The Great End Time Distraction? Do you want to hear it? Let me find him. Uh, Here it is. The Nephilim, according to Chuck Missler, page 19. Um, this is from him. The return of those. Where are they from? Are they the Nephilim of ages past? What does the Bible say about them? What's their agenda for planet Earth? And by the way, he answers all those questions just like you think. They're Nephilim. They're not of this world. What is their plan? Yeah, to take over the world. Yeah, fallen angels. That's not what they are. The subject has not gone away. I'm quoting him now. The subject has not gone away. On the contrary, much new evidence has surfaced with global. No, it hasn't. No evidence has surfaced. Just things that you can't explain. Things that videos that you've seen. Chuck Missler was never abducted by a UFO. Never. Chuck Missler did not see anybody abducted. He got it. Um, Chuck explore this is on the back cover, I think. Chuck explores the biblical relevance and disturbing agenda of the apparent extraterrestrial life forms that have been forced into our global consciousness. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Chuck Missler, one of the guys that gets worshipped as a prophecy guy. He died just a few years back. And I'm not saying he didn't have some good stuff. He did, but this isn't part of it good stuff. I think Chuck Missler led the way in the 90s into pushing this stuff into the prophecy world. Um, let's see. There's more here I wanted to read that he says. Alien Encounters, 1997. This is the book. Well, I just read just from a DVD of 2003, but in 1997, Chuck Missler wrote a book with a guy named Mark Eastman. I think he might be still alive. But uh, what we find in Abduction Phenomenon, that's the name of the book, The Secret Behind uh, Alien Encounters, The Secret Behind the UFO Phenomenon by Chuck Missler and Mark Eastman, 1997. What we find in Abduction Phenomenon is that these powerful alien people against their will. Really, really. And we have proof of that. Do they offer proof of that? Names, police record. I mean, solid proof of this. Of course they don't. Nobody that wrote this stuff saw this with their own eyes or heard it with their own ears or has proved it beyond any shadow of a doubt. Nobody. This is hearsay. It is bad hearsay. Now listen to this. They take people against their will. They paralyze, probe, and inspect painful metallic objects. Really? Who told them that? Did these people come back and with pictures? And you believe it? They plant thoughts in their abductees' minds, perform sadistic sexual acts on them. They impregnate women. Stop right there. Stop right there. How do they impregnate a woman? See, why don't you ask questions? When you read something like this, why don't you stop and ask some questions? How does a fallen angel riding around in a spaceship abducts a woman? How does he impregnate that woman? I want to know. Because they think that they're impregnating them with their own seed, the seed of Satan. And that is a lie. It's a bald faced lie. There's nothing in the Bible even close to that. Nothing. Not Genesis 6, I promise you. That's not taught in Genesis 6 or the book of Jude or Peter or anywhere else in the Bible, I might add. They re-abduct them. In other words, they take them back home and they re-abduct them later, only to harvest the fetuses for the purpose of creating a hybrid race. What a fairy tale side story. Why are we, these people, their books are in the wrong department of the store. This book shouldn't be in the Bible section or the prophecy section. Their books ought to be in the sci-fi section with Star Wars. You say, Brother Good, you're being awful hard on him. Something hard on them. These are not truths. This is science fiction stuff. Ought not be in our prophecy meetings, in our prophecy conferences. This kind of junk. Chuck Missler, 1997. Do with pushing this stuff into the circles of prophecy people. And here we are 20 some years later to look at it. Now we're chasing Bigfoot out in the fields. You ought to listen to some of the stuff, L.A. Mazzulli and others. You ought to listen to some of the nonsense. And he'll tell the lady on the farm, here's what she saw. Why are you spreading hearsay like that? And telling your people that like it's the truth. Why don't you go get an honest job somewhere and get out of the prophecy ministry? I'm serious. The result of these ungodly unions, a race of very wicked and very powerful hybrid, in parentheses, half fallen angel, half human. That is a lie. There is no such thing. No such thing, and I prove it. Prove that. No such thing. No such thing as a half angel, half human. What a scam been pushed upon us. All that just to say this. This is the mentality that's been pushed into our heads for decades now. 47, and I share that in there's a UFO chapter in here, and I share the history of, and I have a book called UFOs True or False. It's in there as well, where I share the history of this UFO movement. Basically, thing really got started, and then Hollywood picked up on it, and now our preachers. We don't need Hollywood anymore. We got prophecy preachers sharing this stupid sci-fi nonsense to to the people, and writing books and doing DVDs and movies and seminars, and my goodness, Hollywood must be laughing at us. So you see what they've set us up. We've been conditioned since the 40s. We've been to believe that probably the War of the Worlds, 1938, probably helped push us to the 1947 Roswell events that took place. And so, um, are they setting us up now? Are they let that man take apart everything that they have gotten ready for the global world? Are they going to just stand by and let him tear it down? Um, so that's my thoughts. One guy said what they possibly could holograms, also many drones and some real big drones with real weapons on them to show some things blowing up. It would cause panic. You have CNN and Fox News and the rest of them, even maybe even our friend Tucker Carlson, talking about aliens have finally invaded us. What do? We do what we always do. We look to our government to save us. We don't look to God. What did we do during COVID? We looked to the government to save us. And we did what they said. I say we, I didn't, and some of you didn't. But many of you's got that thing several times. And a lot of people have passed away from that and other problems from that. And there's more to come. By the way, I saw an article today. The hospitals have gone back to the mask mandate at the hospitals. Yeah. So it could be that they're getting ready to stage this. It could happen here. It could happen in several places in Europe as well, enough to cause worldwide panic, to bring the world leaders together, to finally to say, look, the only way we can save ourselves, we've got to come together. We've got to give up our differences. Religion's got to be put on the back shelf, and we've got to save the world. And we'll give in. And if you don't, you'll be an enemy. You'll be considered an enemy, just like during COVID. You were an enemy. They arrested a lot of people. They arrested preachers for having church. Now you could go down to the abortion clinic. You could go to Lowe's and buy 2x4s, but you couldn't have church. What yeah. So I want to throw that out to you. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I got thinking about this War of the Worlds thing and how look at how history repeats itself. When you study history, the more you study history, the more you realize men don't. And the only thing men learn from history is that men don't learn from history. And you learn that history repeats itself. And it could be that a war of the worlds is coming. They've set us up for people. People believe in this UFO stuff now. Probably 9 out of 10 people. Few of us anymore that have the right biblical view of this. And I hope, friend, I hope that you have the right view of this. But I want you to know what may be coming here. I don't know. And it could happen anytime. It could happen. It could happen before the 20th. But here we are, my friend, at the end of all things. And you better be ready. You better make sure you're saved. You better make sure you've trusted Jesus Christ and Him alone to redeem you from our sinful nature, so that when that trumpet sounds, you'll be in eternity with Him. And we've got a marriage supper to go to. This world has got a thing called the tribulation to deal with, where God's going to judge the world and bring in the kingdom and deal with Israel, Daniel's 70th week. And we'll be at a marriage supper, I believe, during that time. Okay? All right. Well, welcome to the War of the Worlds. Possible. All right, good to hear from all of you. Don't forget on my website, go to Processing Spotlight, click on my bookstore. If you have not read The Great End Time Distraction, it's one of the most important books of our age right now. This book has, and I have had preachers that have differed with me on this, that have read this book and have called me on the phone and said, Brother Goodwin, I'm with you now. I've been wrong for years on this. I now see it. And they've changed. This book has the answers you're looking for. If you're willing to look, if you're willing to have an open mind and an open Bible and let the Bible prove this to you, because it will. My Daniel study guide is out, brand new. And I don't guess I do. Yes, I do. Right here. Daniel study guide right there. Spiral bound. This thing opens up flat on you. I love it. I'm gonna call my printer. I'm gonna have her do one of these for all my books. I want to have what I can use as my own study, to preach from and teach from. Instead of making copies on I can teach right out of this. And so you're gonna love that. And don't forget my most important book I've ever written, puzzle, putting the pieces together. If you don't have that yet, you got to get that. So, all right. On that note, I'll sign off, and we'll see you next time. And by the way, tonight they did not air us on CTN. January 3rd, which they did for free, and January 10th, which is today. For whatever reason, I don't know why they aired something else, and so we're done. Unless some big money comes in the next few days, it looks like we're done with CTN on V, which is just a few channels up from CTN on DirecTV. I think CTN is 376, and Faith TV is 379. Different days on Wednesdays. And so, if you're a CTN person, because if you're watching this, you don't need CTN. You don't need anything. You can watch this on YouTube or Rumble, right? But we're hoping that the CTN people will find us on Faith TV or some of the other networks that we're on, or that they'll get on YouTube. We've been offered, and we don't want to lose any of our viewing audience, but there's only so much you can do. CTN was the biggest of all the expenses we had staying on television, and I really don't think that they were worth the money. 3 months. And quite a burden. So we've taken on some other networks, but we couldn't keep CTN doing that. So if you're one of our partners and you give, don't stop, because we're still using that money to keep these other networks going. We took on Fame cheap either. It's nothing like, it's not as expensive, about a third of what CTN costs, but it's still a lot of money. It's over $400 a week. And then we took on some other ones that are $100 a week. We still got VTN in Arkansas. So we're on a lot of networks now. Okay, the Lord almost here said the return of the Nephilim. I'm not sure what he means. That's the title of some books out there. And by the way, it's a lie. There is no return of the Nephilim. And the word for giant may be, but I could care less. Let's see. Would that be getting ahead of God? Gary. I'm not sure what the context was for your question. So going to get ahead of God. The rapture is already set in stone. This thing God looked in the future, and there's certain things that God ordains and does, and then there's other things that God just saw happen and He told us about it. But this thing is all decided. We're going to be here for 6,000 years, and then kingdom age. I promise you. That will not and cannot be altered. It's not waiting on the last soul to get saved. It's not waiting on some event. It's already set in stone. Okay, and it's going to happen. And there's no. Uh, who is that there? O'Shea or something. The quality is really bad. Well, I don't know what. No one else has complained. One other person said theirs was freezing up, but I don't. But I don't think that's me. So if the quality's bad, it may be on your end. I don't know. Let's see. Trying to see if there's anything here. Uh, Ladybug, I do not believe in aliens, and Little Green Man. We do believe, and let's see. I have that book. All right. Do you mean this book or this book or the puzzle book? Anyway, I appreciate that. Glad you've got it. Satan Job. Let's see. Satan showed Jesus Christ all the kingdoms of the world at one time. Uh, that's Luke chapter 4. Ronald Reagan said it would take up otherworldly event to get every nation to come together. Hey, if you got a link to that, O'Shea, I would like to see that. Um, and I should know who you are. I recognize your name here, but O'Shea, if I'm saying that right, said that worldly event or war to get every nation to come together. Um, if anyone's got anything on that, I would love to read what Mr. Reagan said about that. That'd be interesting. Uh, Um, I use those drones for fighting. Oh, this stupid thing. Can't get them to stay there. The comments keep leaving. Uh, During the tribulation, it is a good book. Okay, return. What they mean by that? I don't know if they're promoting that book or what they mean there. But anyway, all right. I'm going to get off here. Good to see everybody. Thanks for listening in. Share this on your page. Hit the like button and comment on the video if you want. Love to chat with you. Until next time, keep your eyes on them skies.